exciting.
Everybody else.
Did you get one of these today?
I didn't open mine yet because it's, I just,
But no, my
I
brother-in-law
just got
does
it on my
this,
mailbox on my way here.
son-in-law. So
In regards to, did you open it? Did you open it?
No, I picked it up out of my mailbox on my way out.
You knew right, I knew right away what it was. Treasure kept. I wasn't disappointed in that regard.
Yeah.
So she the one that's in charge of this.
Why we didn't have fire. Yeah, thanks for that. Police chief.
Oh, this is our,
And it's real start meeting, so.
Oh, that we,
Yeah. He should have been fired.
You'd all rise, please. Thank you. I want to welcome everybody to tonight's city council meeting. It looks like we have all of our council members present. Attorney here. Kelly, thanks for filling in tonight. Appreciate that. We'll start with the invocation by Jack. Thank you, Jack.
Let's bow our heads. Father God, thank you for your blessings, prosperity, and watching over our community. Tonight we gather to determine business matters of the city. We do this on Tuesday instead of our normal Monday in order that we may honor the life and legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Father, the weather has been challenging these past few days. I ask for protection of our city workers as they perform their duties in this bitter cold. Keep them safe from harm. As we take up the issues before us, I pray for guidance and wisdom. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Thank you, Jack. The Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from January 2nd, 2024.
Having read the minutes, and I agree, move to accept.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, there's a second by Diane.
It's Cindy.
Jerry made the
Cindy.
motion. Or wait,
It
by
was-
Cindy?
Yeah.
I'm a rookie here, bear
She
with me.
beat out Josh.
Good. Did you get that, Kelly? Thank you. All right, good. Thank you. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, the ayes have it. Okay. You know, I want to welcome everybody here this evening. Cold weather. I heard there might be a game going on here in a little bit. I don't know. Okay, good. We'll do our best. Or oral written communications, we now are in unfinished business. Ordinance 2024-0101. Jeremy, thank you.
Yeah, so you had your first reading on this ordinance last month. This is for the GACKey project and the GACKey bond issue. So this would be the second reading. The public hearing was held at the last meeting, I guess not last month, but the last meeting. And so there is not a public hearing tonight. Nothing has changed within the ordinance. This will just be the second reading for that bond issue.
Any questions from the council?
If there are no questions, Mr. Mayor, I would move that we pass ordinance 2024-0101 on second reading.
On second read, is there a second? Okay. Jack made the motion, Jerry seconded. Any further comments, Jeremy?
Nope.
No. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it. Jeremy, I think you have the next item.
Yeah, so this resolution goes along with the recent ordinance you just passed. We're doing the bond issue. The bond issue, we don't know the exact dollar amount and won't know until we get closer to the issue, because that'll be competitive. So depending on the interest rate, that bond amount will adjust or increase or decrease. So right now, what's in that ordinance is just some parameters. This resolution that you have before you is our other portion of the GACKey contribution. And like the bond ordinance, we don't have the exact numbers yet. So these are just estimates on what our contribution to the project. We know that our contribution and our agreement with the developer is for $3.3 million. Some of that money will come from the bond issue. The other portion of that money will come out of Edit's revolving loan fund. So it'll be a forgivable loan, much like some of the other loan projects that we've done. This resolution is setting up that revolving fund for this project. The GACI project stays the same as what has already been mentioned. It's a 12,000 square foot, 8 flex spaces, 4,300 square feet of commercial space, and the 75 market rate apartments. So once we do the bond issue, we'll have the final numbers for the resolution, which is the loan agreement that you have before you. But we need to have this resolution approved so that we can proceed, have that ready to go once the bond issue is complete.
Lengthy resolution, but correct me if I'm wrong, Randy or Paula,
Yes.
we're going to make it work, right?
Yep. And this, if you remember correctly, you, the council, are the body that approves these loans, so every loan that comes has to come before you. So this is the way we issue these loans.
Any questions from the council?
I felt like it was well explained last time, so I'll make a motion that we pass ordinance 2024-0104. I mean, resolution, sorry.
Resolution, good. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, Diane, thanks for the motion. And a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it. Thank you. Thanks, Jeremy. I think that is, do we have another item with you, or,
Yes.
okay, tax abatement?
Yes, so next up is the tax abatement for Danco Medical. They have purchased a property at 905 Executive Drive and are requesting a 10-year back tax abatement for both real and personal property. The project includes roughly a $2 million remodel of the existing building and around $4 million in new manufacturing equipment, with projected job creation of 20 new jobs over the next few years. The proposed expansion does meet our guidelines. For personal property, it's over $1 million for a 10-year tax abatement, and for real property, it's $1 million and 10 new jobs. So they do qualify for the 10-year tax abatement. Attached to the tax abatement is the abatement schedule. This is the typical abatement schedule for a 10-year, which is a 10% decreasing from year 1 down to year 10. Danco is here if you have any questions, or if you would like them to give a brief explanation of their project. They are more than willing to do that. I'll leave that up to you, but their request is for this 10-year tax abatement for both real and personal property.
2 million remodel again, 4 million in new equipment, 20 new jobs, 10-year abatement starting at 100% only on that, going down 10% over the next 10 years.
Yes.
Yeah, I would like to listen to, do they have representation here?
Yes, they do.
Great. Thanks, Jeremy, for that. Thank you, sir.
Hi, I'm Tim Zentz, the general manager. So our investments are to basically bring in capital equipment to expand aluminum anodizing process to support the orthopedic industry. The sterilization containers is our focus on that expansion. This is our second site here in Warsaw, so we definitely look forward to expanding our operations and continuing the support of the local community. Any questions?
Any questions?
No, just thanks for reinvesting.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Despite your shirt.
Yes.
Now, can I take issue with that?
No, thank you. Jeremy, so what specifically do you need from us again?
You just need to approve the personal and real properties. These are the SB1s. So once these are approved, then they'll get submitted to the county, and then the following years, as those investments are made, they'll get those abatements on those investments. Danco's been in the community for a long time. This is not their first tax abatement. I think they've had a couple. They have met and exceeded all the tax abatements they've applied for, not only in investment, but also in job creation. So while they said 20, I wouldn't be surprised if they end up with more than 20 employees.
And the abatements begin the year that they
The
make their
assessments happen,
investment.
yeah. Well, when it gets assessed.
When,
So it'll get assessed and then taxed, so we're a year behind. So let's say there is some assessment this year, which I don't know that there will or won't be, but if they are, then it would be be the following year, so that's
Right.
always a year in between the time that they apply for the tax abatements to the time it's granted.
and that's on the amount invested.
Yes, only amount invested. This is an existing building. They're putting money into the existing building, so the assessment will probably change a little, but they won't be, nothing will be abated for what's already there.
Okay. I just think it's important for people to hear that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
good
Just,
point
just,
and
just the
question.
amount invested. Okay, very good.
Any other questions? I'll entertain a motion.
I
I-
would make, ladies first.
Okay, I would move to approve the abatement for Danco Medical.
Motion
And
by
then I'll second.
Cindy, and then a second has been put into place by Mike, right? Got that right?
Yep.
Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes have it. Thanks, Kelly, thank you. Jackson,
Hi,
streetlights.
We are talking about the approval of the installation of new streetlights on Clinic Court for the Eastgate Apartments. We've been talking with the property manager for the past few months. There've been some complaints about safety issues. There's no light back there, basically. And we met with NIPSCO probably about a month ago, and they have agreed to just install these poles. So there's an attached map, the next page, if you want to look at it. There's 3 poles. There will be 4 total lights. There will be 2 lights on that middle pole, kind of on the corner, pointing in different directions. So we're looking for approval for paying that new electrical bill that will be from the city, looking at roughly $60 a month, probably cheaper, since 2 lights will be on 1 pole, so it's probably a little bit cheaper than $60.
Jackson, appreciate your work here. And, any questions from the council?
I was wondering how you had 4 lights and 3 poles. Now I know.
Yep, there's 2 on that corner.
Okay.
The property manager is here as well, if you had questions, but I didn't figure there would be, but just in case.
This is out on Old 30,
Yep, right by,
East?
yep, right by Popeyes.
okay.
Yep, right behind there.
You know, since you're asking for questions, when I was looking at this, studying it before the meeting, I was thinking if I lived in one of those apartments and that new street light goes in, is that gonna cause me a problem? So have they looked at that, where the placement of those lights are gonna be, so it's not just right outside somebody's window? Or are these lights gonna be somewhat directional, you know, like down, or?
Yeah, they're, to my knowledge, I mean, I'm not a light expert, but NIPSCO was kind of the one that came out here with these placements and where they would put the lights. I do know they're LED, so they're pretty high functioning. And they are directional, and they're gonna be, I'm pretty sure, directionally down. And they can adjust them. So they came out and said, hey, like, where do you want them angled towards the apartments? So, and most of them are not gonna be, actually none of them are gonna be facing directly into any buildings. They're all gonna be kind of on the street focus.
Right.
So-
Sometimes they just spread light everywhere.
Correct. I don't know if I have an exact answer for you, but I would assume that wouldn't be a problem, based on modern lights, I would hope.
Did that occur to anybody else?
Just you.
Good question, but I'm hoping that the need for light and then maybe the bothersome, what they are getting, they'll appreciate that there is light there now.
Yeah, I would hope that's the case. I
That's what
know
they
there's
want.
quite a few Grace College students out there that have had
Right.
some problems, so that's kind of been why the issue's been around.
I assume that by you being here, that you support this. Yeah.
Yes, I even have some like single families out there and stuff, and this is a big issue because our laundry is open 24 hours and everybody works different shifts and it's really dark back there. Like it's pretty dark. We are getting a new group of people that are coming in because we've done a lot of remodels. And so we've got like college students and things like that coming in. It's just dark.
Thanks for coming.
Just to answer your question, Mike, so NIPSCO will be installing what are street lights, and those street lights are directional lights. So it's not like they're gonna be hanging a floodlight out there, which kind of spreads everywhere. The streetlights that they're hanging, that we hang on poles, are gonna be directional, and they're gonna be pointing down to the location we're trying to light. So they'll be able to be angled, the reflections, the way they're designed, all of that is to shed light down. So I don't think you're gonna have any issues shedding off that.
Well, as you know, I'm kind of a light nerd.
Well, since you have to check on them every time they go out, I appreciate you doing that for the council. So I think you're entitled to raise a question.
And Jeremy knows I'm big on streetlights.
Any other questions for Jackson?
You need a motion on this, Mayor?
I think you're asking for approval. Yes. Thank you.
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
I will.
Okay, Mike with the motion, Jerry with the second. Any other comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you. Thanks. Brian, I think you have an ordinance that you want us to entertain here. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, this essentially will be first reading. It'll have to be 2 readings to officially pass. But we want to modify our pollutant limits that are allowed to be sent to us from industry. So in there, you'll see 3 red lines. Really, 2 red lines are just crossing out the milligram per liter because it's referenced at the top, so you don't need it next to the number. But the real change is in copper. Our copper limit was 0.3 milligrams per liter, and we want to raise that to 1.69 milligrams per liter. So what that's going to allow is for industries that can or can send a little more copper to the plant, and we can still meet that limit going out of the plant that we have. So every time you do a major expansion, permit renewals, you have to do what's called a headworks analysis. Westler performed that for us and said these are all good limits, you could increase your copper. Well, we've been trying to do that for a while because we do have a pretty restrictive copper limit in the city of Warsaw. So this opens that up a little bit. When you're talking milligrams per liter, which for us that grew up a few years back, same as parts per million. So it just increases it from 0.3 to 1.69 milligrams per liter. Gives a little more freedom to some industries that have been right on the line. We have approval, as much approval as the EPA will give us until it's subject to the governing board approving the limits before they will officially approve the limits, but we have a pre-approval from the EPA okaying the change. We've done the notice in the newspaper where you have to leave it open for 30 days for comments. We did not receive any comments from that 30-day period. So at this point, we're asking for you to approve this change, and then EPA will officially say you're fine.
And Brian, just trust in your insight and judgment. Safety would be a high priority, and the ability, it's going to be safe because you can treat it. So these are safe numbers as I look at all this.
Right. When we have that headworks analysis, they look at everything that's coming in and what our limits are to be discharged. They look, so most of this copper ends up in our solid side, the biosolids that get land applied. So they look at the loading that we have in that, and can we take more, can we take less, are we good? And they recommended that we could change the copper to that and still be, and there's a safety factor built in on top of that. But
Appreciate your comments.
Sure.
Any questions from the council?
So what you're saying is, even though you're going to be taking in more, you're not going to be discharging more. You're going to be solidifying that in...
Well, yes, it ends up in our solids, which end up typically 1 of 2 places, either land applied onto farm ground, or some of it ends up in a landfill. So there will be more in there, but it's well within the limits that's permitted. Copper is a micronutrient for crops, and so they need a little bit of it.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions?
And I assume this move is just for economically to help the industry in our area.
Yeah, Warsaw really had one of the tighter limits around, if you would check, and it was a tough limit. The drinking water limit is only a little bit below what allowed to come to us, so you could add very little copper to what you receive from the drinking water side. To the point where some industries had so many copper pipes for water that enough copper would leach out of the pipe and cause them to violate copper limits.
Any other questions? And Brian, this is it's an ordinance, and you're just asking for approval or consideration on first reading. It'll require
a second reading.
second
There's no
reading.
need to waive or anything. We
Okay.
can just do it at the next meeting.
I'll make a motion, we approve ordinance 2024-0102, excuse me, on first reading.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion, Jurgen, thank you very much. Any other questions? Brian, any other comments? Good. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? The ayes have it. Kelly, thank you.
Thank you.
The next item on the agenda is ARPA fund discussion. And I would like, Scott, do you have any comments that you'd like to make before we begin? Thank you.
Yeah, before we move on to the ARPA fund discussion, I'd like to speak with you guys briefly about an ordinance that I'm working on for the council's consideration. I've been working with Council President Will Hite and Clerk Treasurer Lynn Christensen. The state government has recognized that many projects require the ability to pay for goods and materials up front, that there's a need for that before the project gets done. And so they've codified that they would like cities and municipalities to pass an ordinance that allows up to 50% of an award that the city might make or an expense that the city might make to a purchasing agent to spend up to 50% of that award to pre-purchase goods, services, those kind of things. And so I believe Jack has forwarded you the draft copy of that ordinance. I just wanted to speak about that briefly. So the way that would work is our purchasing agency is the Board of Works. So the Board of Works can then approve a purchasing agent. So we have a previous ordinance regarding purchasing agents. So as an example, it might be the Board of Works might approve Ken Locke to be a purchasing agent to purchase things if the Salvation Army was awarded some money for a project. And they could also then approve up to 50% of that award to be spent up front on goods and services. Now, a few minor details about that is our purchasing agent ordinance was passed some time ago, and some uniqueness to that is that it first requires the purchasing agent to try to buy American. So the part of that ordinance says if you have the opportunity to buy American goods, buy American goods. There's some outs on that if there's not materials available, or if they're of lesser quality, or if they're significantly more expensive. But that's just one thing that I wanted to point out, that before the money can get granted to these ARPA recipients, we're going to ask that the council consider passing an ordinance, probably brought to you in the February meetings, to consider passing that ordinance to allow the Board of Works to approve a purchasing agent to spend up to 50% of the project's award to purchase pre-goods or services. So if there's any questions, I'm happy to answer those. But that's what's we're looking forward to in February. And I wanted to speak about that before these ARPA discussions, because that's going to affect them a little bit of what we're trying to do.
So reading through that, I know that it came to light because we're looking at these ARPA, but it would apply to all other types of projects as well, correct?
Correct, but some of it is, it would apply to other projects as well. And I think the second part of that is, one, they recognized you got to prepay for goods. And I think the other part is there's some recognition that you also don't want to fund 100% because you want to be certain that the goods are purchased or the materials are purchased. I'm just guessing, I think there might have been some times when someone's gotten burnt a little bit because they funded the full amount and then weren't able to get the project completed as expected. So it's going to be passed and it's going to be used for other things for our pre-purchase of goods or services, but it was first brought to light because it started January 1, and we're using that. Lynn's been trying to get this moved forward, and we're getting to it in February.
Okay.
Any other questions, Mike?
So, or the egg question, which comes first? Do we have to have this ordinance come to us and pass it before we approve any of our ARPA
My
requests?
view is nobody will get a check until the ordinance is passed that allows for that funding to be made. So you can, in my view, you can approve grants as you see fit, whether it be tonight or some other time, but before Lynn's able to process a check and get to somebody for prepaid goods, it's going to have an ordinance in place to allow it to be brought before the Board of Works, to make that request for the Board of Works to appoint the purchasing agent, to allow that purchasing agent to go spend that money, and then she can award the check. So I'm guessing it'll be March would be the soonest now that somebody will get funding, because and you all can do what you want, maybe it'll be passed on second reading and all that, but we're kind of looking at, the idea is if we have some ARPA grants that they may be selected soon, maybe tonight, and then have the ordinance passed at the 2 meetings in February, and then bring those requests before the Board of Works in March for approval, is the timeline I envision for this.
We had, it's been a struggle for us to get to this point because we're kind of inventing it as we go due to the council's wishes on certain aspects of it. But the reason why I decided to try to go ahead and do it in this order was, as Scott mentioned, they won't get a check until we get the ordinance passed. But at least by getting them granted, us okaying them, or not okaying them, whatever the council decides, they would know and be able to plan for spring, which is, even though it's cold out, coming right up, and it takes a while to get these things in line. They could possibly make orders, get things started and rolling so that come spring, they're ready to plop it in the ground or put the roof on or whatever they got to do and get things done. So this was done in this order mainly to try to help them get their ducks in a row as well. I didn't want them to have to hold back based on the fact that it was taking us a while to get things done.
I felt like, Mike, when I was briefed on this, that if the legislative body approves, this ordinance will give us the ability to properly administer the funds. And then also there's oversight with the Board of Works, which the council with Diane will have representation. And back to Jack's comments, we can actually get, the funds to them so they can do what they want. Again, if the legislative body, you approve something. So You okay with that?
I am.
Okay, good. Any other questions about what Scott has shared? Jack?
Yes,
Jurgen?
Scott, just one quick question. So I'm trying to understand, so they could get a check as soon as they place the order, basically, is what you're saying? They wouldn't have to actually receive any goods or anything?
Well, so under the ordinance that you're going to receive,
Right.
there's a process, and not to get overly detailed because it's in the ordinance, but
Sure.
some of the stuff, for instance, is they're going to generate an invoice saying this is what we intend to purchase. That invoice will be gotten to probably the council representative, Jack, because part of our grant, if you recall, separate from this ordinance, part of our grant was the council wanted to maintain some oversight to make sure that this money was somewhat being spent properly. So I think it'll probably, the invoice will come to Jack. Jack will then get it. If he approves, it'll get to Lynn. And then under our ordinance, Lynn can then say, I'm going to cut a check for this proposed amount, prepaid services or goods.
Thank you.
Any other questions? So that should be coming next council meeting, early February. And depending on the situation and what you guys decide to do and the request, like he said, it could be first reading, we wait for 2 weeks, or it could be one time, but that would be your prerogative. Jack, you do have, it looks like on the agenda, you do have 2 applications that have been turned in. What I'd like to do is give you an opportunity to present each one to
Sure.
the council if you're, okay, go ahead.
Before that, I got a finger from,
I was just, are you going to be here for that first meeting?
I will not be here in February. That was another reason to try to make sure that a lot of this stuff got together and that we understood tonight the bulk of it before we actually have to vote.
All right, thank you.
So I know you guys have all looked through it. Look through it again. You know how to get a hold of me. Give me a call. We can discuss it. But Jack wanted it to be brought forward to all of you because he wanted to help with any questions there might be tonight, because he did plan to not be present maybe at the next council meeting or two. So we wanted to get that before you tonight and get any questions answered. But Jack's been instrumental in helping getting this moved forward, and so I'm glad he was here tonight to be able to be part of this discussion.
As far as the 2 applicants that we have tonight, I'll turn this part of it over to Cindy.
Okay.
She was the,
Thanks, Cindy.
she was leading us through this process. And
Cindy, you have the floor. Thank you.
Okay. Well, thanks to Scott Royce and Jack and Mike. Mike and Jack and I have met 3 or 4 different times reviewing some applications. And we do have a couple more kind of in the hopper, but we're waiting for additional information on some of those. But we do have these 2 that we did not want to hold up. And the first one is a grant application from the City County Athletic Complex. And they did have 2 different applications. We elected to go forward in getting approval for the purchase of scoreboards. And it's a rather large purchase. I believe it's $58,645. The request from the city would be for $46,916. And in reviewing their application, you'll see that they've had the same scoreboards for like 29 years now, and some of them are not functional at all. Others are barely functional, if I understand correctly, and are probably old enough that trying to repair or get parts is probably not possible. We looked at this application favorably because we do know that if they have what they need to have tournaments and so forth, that it does bring a lot of money into our community with the restaurants, the hotels, and so forth. And so as a committee, we viewed this request favorably, and we're presenting it to the council. And if you have any questions, we have several representatives from the CCAC here that would be glad to answer any questions that you have.
Could we go ahead and have a
Yeah,
representative
Sure.
stand up, plead your case?
yeah.
And this is, again, I think the first request, which
Yes.
is the scoreboard.
Yes.
Scoreboards,
It is.
yes.
I'm
uh-huh.
Mark Skabowski, I'm president of the CCAC by default. The prior president resigned, so I was VP. Guess what? I was elected. So we've got Mike Hagee and Joe Pachkowski here with us. Joe is vice president on the CCAC. It is the city-county athletic complex. Funding from the city has been removed due to adjustments that you've made in the programs for funding nonprofits. We were funded for a long time at $20,000 a year from the city, and it was $21,000 a year, and now that is gone. We are about a 30-year-old facility, and it looks like it. It's tough. You know, my background's business, accounting, charging fees for soccer, for softball, things like that. The amount of revenue that comes in per head isn't significant. Items like scoreboards, big ticket items, 60,000. We've got a lot of wants, a lot of wishes. We're trying to do a better job with grant requests. We've met with the Community Foundation and do have a grant coming from them to upgrade some other areas at the CCAC. The scoreboards are huge. If you're sitting in the stands and parents can't see what the scores are, it doesn't do us any good. So that's the reason for coming. Josh actually is on the board with us as well. He's the council representative for the CCAC, represents the city. So he's well in tune with what we've got going on. We've made significant strides in the last year. Hopefully we'll continue those strides with an approval for these funds. It'll be a big deal for us, represent the community much better.
I really appreciate it. I was telling Joe before the meeting, I appreciated your explanation, the history and the realities of it. Thank you for that.
Can you explain a little bit about the scoreboards? It's more than a boy just hanging a number on the,
Yeah, it's
Up
not
there now, right?
Boston. And we actually did attach the quote with it. I'll have Mike come up and give the details. He's the expert. I'm the big picture guy. Here's the expert on the scoreboard.
All right, I'm Mike Hagee, the Executive Director of the CCAC. First of all, thanks for time, for hearing us out. The scoreboards, questions as far as what they are, the state-of-the-art LED lights. Currently what we use now is the old-fashioned light bulbs, and they are outdated. The question like someone mentioned about repair, we can't repair them. They are 29 years old, so new is our option. And like Mark said, we really need them because if we lose events from people being disgruntled, I did a little bit of number crunching. Our weekend events of softball, adult, girls fast pitch, and boys baseball is about 64% of our income. So if we start losing events, the city's losing as well. So, yeah. Scoreboards need replaced, not repaired.
I think another thing we also took into consideration, since these are ARPA funds, is the fact that their organization had to be significantly impacted by the COVID.
Oh, absolutely.
And everything, and so that delayed or squelched their ability to get funds. So.
Great reminder, Cindy.
Yeah, because in our industry, that money cannot be made up. Once it's gone, it's gone. There's no coming back.
do these scoreboards do anything special? I'm sure they don't shoot off fireworks or anything like that.
No, we stuck to the basics enough to where it's what we need, nothing fancy or above and beyond. We didn't feel like requesting too much would have been appropriate, so we went with the basic. Both. That is the one thing on the quote it does say, because it could be a cost-effective thing in the long run. Yes, most do come with a board, a little digital board where somebody sits behind the scoreboard and does it, behind the field, I should say, and does it. But with these, it does have the capability of cell phone. So instead of paying scorekeepers, we can cut back and the umpires can keep score as they go on their cell phone. So they can control the scoreboard from there.
Sounds like it might cut down on some hardware as well.
Excuse me?
It sounds like it might cut down on some hardware as
Absolutely.
well, and maintenance on hardware?
Absolutely. Yeah. We've got to compete with these new entities going up around our area, so we're fortunate enough that we have 22 weekends already booked for this year, hoping to gain a couple more. But with new parks coming up, we've got to start being aggressive on fixing what we have to get caught up and keep and retain events we have.
Any other questions for Mike or Mark? Joe's here too.
Will these be here in time for the season?
Well, with the new March thing, we're hoping. Should be. If not, I mean, we can make do for a few weeks, but ideally we'd like to have in place. Our first event on the weekend's April 14th, 15th, that weekend. So.
Mike, he needs that ordinance. Yeah, otherwise he goes to extra innings. He doesn't want to do that.
If I could, I know it's not up for vote, but the ordinance, I sit on the KCC, RBC, we fund a lot of groups. We meet tomorrow, and I'm actually, at Joe's request, we're going to have that same type of discussion. Because when you're talking with nonprofit organizations, don't have a lot of money, that upfront cost, and what we do on KCC RBC is reimbursement grants. Well, for the CCAC to come up with $60,000 out of pocket up front, sometimes folks won't deliver the product unless they've received 50% up front. So
That's
it's
precisely why we went down that
amount.
line.
And it'd be very helpful for nonprofits that they're asking for money because they don't have money. So if you can fund that to where you allow them to receive those grants, it'd be great.
Any other questions or comments on this request? You want to take action, or what would you like to do as a board?
I'll make a motion that we approve this request.
There's a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Thanks, Diane, for the motion. Jurgen for the second. Any further comments?
Well, I
Questions?
think
Okay.
that you all have to put a number with what the amount is that you're approving. And as I recall, it's going to be up to 80% of the total cost of the project is what I believe the new grant perimeters are. So it's up to, so you all decide whether you want to approve up to the 80% or some different number, but I think that's an important part of this vote too, is the dollar figure that you're going to include.
The total of the project was 58,645. Their 20% takes it down to the request being 46,916. That would be at 80%.
I'll make a motion that we approve up to $46,916, not to exceed, for this project.
Okay, that motion has been amended. Jurgen, are you still
Yes.
willing to second that motion that's been amended?
Second, yes.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. Any other comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
Aye.
The ayes have it. Thank you. I think we have Cindy, there's another request by them. Do you want to entertain that or not?
Not at this,
Not at
not
this
at this
time.
time, where,
Okay.
yeah, and I had talked with Mike a little bit about
Okay.
that, so, yeah.
Thank you very much. There's another one here, Cindy. Are you going to take the lead on
Yes,
this also? Thank you.
yes, this is for the Salvation Army, and I need to make sure people understand it's not for the worship center or anything. It is for the pantry and the service center, where people come to pick up food, come for help with utilities and so forth. They are desperately in need of a new roof over that location. It wasn't in the grant application you got, but I did get a copy of the minutes from Ken Locke, where the Board of Directors of the Salvation Army did approve Ken applying for the ARPA funds. And I think at this point in time, I'd probably like to ask Ken to come forward and tell just a little bit about the numbers of people that they service.
Just one thing I admitted, and just to go back a little bit to the CCAC, Ken, if you could just give us 1 second. CCAC, I got one more question for y'all. We're going to eventually ask the Board of Works to approve a purchasing agent. We would like a name of the person who you would like to designate for your purchasing agent so that we can ask for that.
Okay. Mike, okay.
Mike Hagee.
You need us to approve that? or-
No,
or
no, it's just,
formally,
part of this is going to be the presentation, and I'm assuming you're probably going to come to the Board of Works at that time, but just to get things ready so that the Board of Works knows who they can ask to be the purchasing agent to deal with. The purchasing agent's going to have some responsibilities regarding the money.
Okay, thanks, Mike. Good. All right. Ken?
Well, thank you for allowing us to be here tonight. Just want to go on record that I'm not wearing anything with Iowa on my body tonight, so it doesn't affect your decision.
That's unusual.
Even though we rule women's basketball right now. So, but anyway, we're looking at our building at 622 North Ellsworth that we do all of our services out of. This is probably one time that it's nice that we have two separate buildings because all of the activity in that building has to do with people coming in for assistance. So our pantry is there, Pathway of Hope we do through that building. The other things that we do all are out of that service building. So, because I think there was a little bit of concern about that, but this is one time I think that works out better. We have seen, especially in this last year in 2023, we've seen a 30% increase in services this past year, even greater than right after COVID. So this past year is taking quite a toll on people, especially who are in need. So we're looking at trying to stretch our funds as far as we can go, and so we're looking to try to get a new roof on this building. The roof is about 25 years old. We've tried to do some estimates on that, and we think it's right around 25 years old. It's starting to show wear. The other thing that we were real pointed in doing is that we wanted to work with a local company to put the roof on the building. So our quote came from Professional Roofing. We certainly could do a second bid too if we needed to, but that's what we were looking at. I think just the most important thing is we're trying to maintain that building as best as possible, but that building's very busy and gets used a lot. So basically, that's our request, is just to get a new roof on that building.
And again, we kind of looked at the fact too that during COVID, I think the Salvation Army was hit pretty hard and has continued to be hit pretty hard,
Yeah.
so.
Thanks, Cindy, for that. Ken, any other comments?
No.
Any questions?
Is that a steel roof?
No, and we're looking at, we would have it's a shingle roof. We would have it totally torn off and replaced with a shingle roof. We did look at a metal, but it was pretty pricey. So if you're familiar with the building, it's a really long building. It's a fairly large roof. So we just stayed. We'll probably look at, I can't remember in the quote, but I think we were looking at a 50-year shingle to put on it, hopefully. 30 to 50-year shingle, depending on what they could find as far as price. So.
Well, personally, I'm in favor of steel roofs, but I was born and raised in a house that had a steel roof on it from the time I was a tot, and it still has that same steel roof on it today, and that's been over 80 years.
It would definitely change the price of it, though, I know that.
It would probably be a little bit of an increase, but in the long run, it might favor out.
I mean, we could certainly entertain that, but we were looking at, just at this point, getting the roof replaced, so, yeah.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Ken, you've had this quote for a while. Is it still going to be the same number? You've locked in a price, so to speak, until we can get things moving, this price will...
I think, and the other thing that we will, if we have to, we will figure out, you know, what happens there. Obviously, you know, material prices are all over the place right now.
Yeah.
So at this point, when we got this quote, you know, it's a little tough to answer actually, because I don't know for sure. But I would
guess
hope
what I'm
that.
saying is I don't want you to come up short.
Yeah. I do think the one nice thing working with professionals, they keep quite a bit of stuff on supply to be ready. So maybe that will help us in that area. So, but I don't want to speak for them either. I don't want to hold them to anything but I would hope we could pretty much stay to that. It's a fairly recent quote, so I think we'll be okay.
And I do have minutes from the Salvation Army board meeting where the board agreed to cover the 20% cost, to come up with the funds to cover the 20%, provided ARPA funds are received to cover remaining balance, and everyone was in favor of that, so.
And Ken, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm looking at the 20%, and it looks like your commitment will be $4,891.36. The
That's
up to
correct.
80 would be $19,565.46 if this is the direction that you would decide, this is the quote that you want.
This would be the quote, yes, at this point. I think the other, in answer to Jerry's question too, part of what we're dealing with too is 25 years from now, this building's fairly old anyway. At that point, it may be time to look at a different building too. So I would understand that. I would understand a metal roof, but at this point, fortunately, I won't have to worry about it in 25 years. So, but at this point, probably the economics of it would be to put a shingle roof on it and try to stay at this cost. So
Yeah.
the other thing we do is we always build a contingency into every project that we do. So Mike, if there would be an increase, we may have to just bite the bullet. Or I'll get a hold of Eric at, you know, Fellowship Missions. He's flush with money, so, you know, and I can get some from him, so, but, but we would work that out.
Related to that,
Sorry,
you're looking at up to $19,565.46, which I think you would say would be very helpful to what they want to accomplish here, so. Any other questions?
Well, it's not as flashy as a scoreboard, but it's
We
necessary.
might be able to do fireworks, so we'll work on that, so.
But it's necessary, and I move that we approve the $19,565.46 as granted.
I'll second. Okay, and may I ask with that, it would be an up to that amount?
Up to, yes.
With the second, you okay with that? Okay, so there is a motion and a second. Ken, any other comments?
My only other comment is I would be the purchasing agent, so.
Very good.
Okay.
I'm going to recuse myself since I'm on the board.
Yeah,
Okay.
That was the only other thing I was gonna say. Cindy
Yeah.
is on our board, so she probably is not voting, so.
Okay. Any other questions or comments?
I would just say thank you for the work you do.
Okay,
Yes.
Thank you. All right, thank you.
All those in favor of the request, or the motion, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? The ayes have it. Thanks, Kelly. Thanks, Ken. Is there any other matters that the council would like to bring forward? Anything?
I'd just like to, again, commend our Public Works Department and our Street Department for keeping up with everything that's going on right now. They've both had their challenges, and you listen to the news and other people are having to close their buildings because they're not maintained, and I'm just really proud of our city that they take care of what they've got. And for you emergency responders, I live close enough to 30 and 15 that I hear you guys going all the time here, and so thanks for everything you've been doing in the last several days. We can't say thanks enough, so thank you.
Related to, yes, yeah, good.
As a downtown merchant too, many, many thanks to the park department that comes by with the Bobcat. And I think they only are really required to maybe do once a day, but when it was really bad, they were by 3 or 4 times, you know, plowing, putting salt down and whatever. And that helps a lot.
You know, the rookie here with 24 years of experience, what are they doing? As mayor, I am updated. I didn't know that that was going to happen, but I am updated all of the time, and it's a privilege. And then Mayor, we've done this, we're doing that, and so they are out there. We know it, but there's confirmation. And then this morning, I thought I would show everybody up in the cold weather. School's canceled, but I'm going to show up as mayor and be the first guy here. And related to Cindy's comments, tough guy Jeff sees 7 or 8 guys out here shoveling to make the sidewalks clear. And I was reminded they're the tough guys, and I ran upstairs to the space heater and coffee, and I was reminded they're out there working. So I appreciate your comments, Diane and Cindy. Great work by our city employees during these difficult weather events. Any other comments? Okay, that takes us to, we want to thank everybody for coming. Are there any questions or comments from visitors? Yes, sir.
Good evening, Haj Patel. I'm with Abin-Marsh Consultants. We're an architectural and engineering firm based out of South Bend, but we surround Warsaw. We have offices in Goshen and also in Fort Wayne. And just want to share with you, there is a request for a proposal that's out there for a roundabout at Anchorage and Biomet for construction inspection. And so our firm is planning on submitting on that. So we appreciate the opportunity to work with the opportunity that the city is giving Abin-Marsh and other firms to submit on projects here in your community. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. Anyone else? Yes, sir.
I just had a question about the 50% upfront thing, and perhaps this is already going into the
All right,
ordinance.
so your name?
Travis McConnell. Thank you much. Perhaps this is already contemplated and this is moot, but for the 50% upfront, hopefully there's some sort of oversight to prevent the type of government waste that we see sometimes where like we give them 50% upfront and then let's say hypothetically, this I'm sure is not going to happen to CCAC, they don't buy the scoreboards. Is there some sort of penalty provision, somebody held responsible, something to keep in mind so we don't have that sort of thing happening?
Yeah, so part of the ordinance will require that there's invoices and a purchase order submitted as part of their request for the funds to be distributed to them. So I think that might help some of it.
I can write you an invoice and not buy stuff. Are you going to actually make sure that they actually buy it with the invoice that they submitted earlier? Because I can write all the invoices you'd like, and if you're going to give me money and there's no consequence, I'm happy to do that if you're going to give me money.
So and you might check it out, it would be useful to look at the application. So the application sets forth that amongst the things that they're required to do is also, before they receive the second half of the money, confirm that they've done and completed the project. So that's when they'll get the second half of the money, is when there's a showing that the project's been completed. So some of this, I think, for certain, is if you come before the city council, I think they're looking to approve requests from groups that I would have to say are somewhat trusted in this community. So I think tonight's a perfect example. I think the CCAC has a reputation in our community, and the city council is aware of that reputation. That's why they were considered today and moved forward by the committee to be considered by the full council, and the same with the Salvation Army. So it's always a concern that somebody would misappropriate money or things that they were given. I guess would contemplate that if that happens, but we're doing what we can to try to make sure that they submit to us, the invoices, the purchase orders. As both of them submitted here tonight, they already got quotes for the stuff that they were asking for, so it wasn't just a shot in the dark type of a thing.
I just want to piggyback off of what you said there. I think, yeah, somebody could gin up an invoice, but I don't think they're going to be able to gin up an invoice from Daktronics with, their official invoice, or the company that Ken's gonna use. I think this board is gonna wanna see those original invoices and know that those materials have been delivered before that check goes out.
So another thing I would say, unfortunately, this city does have a history of certain past employee and a vendor ginning up some invoices, and those people were both, the people involved in that, I know some of them were convicted and spent time in jail and spent time at the Work Release Center and had enormous restitution orders, and we recovered hundreds of thousands of dollars from some of that. So I think, without naming names, I think you're all familiar with that past experience. So I suppose if there's fraud going on, I think likely that might interest Brad Bowles, and he might do something about it.
I think too, Travis, the fortunate situation tonight with the two requests. Hi, Mark. Okay, Mike. Hi, Joe. I know Joe. I guess Ken's a good guy too. Okay, you get the idea. So that's fortunate. And then the way this ordinance will be set up, not only do they provide the point man, but then we have not only approval from the council, you now have the Board of Works, which I'm a part of. I hope that I can see it. So thankful Diane is with us, more oversight, along with the community leader, and things are going to be going through the clerk treasurer's office. Thanks again, Kelly, for being here. And so hopefully there'll be enough oversight and administration where that will be far less likely to happen. That's the wishing the good. Yeah. Ken?
We receive grants, and many times in those grants, they assign a person who oversees that grant, and they do the final checking off. So that may be something you want to consider in this. Obviously, it couldn't be Cindy because she's on our board, but there would be somebody who actually comes out and does an eyeball too. We've had that happen with some grants. So I think Travis brings up a really good point of that way where everything's above board then. It's just basically on how you word it. But generally, like a foundation will assign a person to come out, and they actually do an on-site visit then.
Well,
So that way,
very good reminder, and I just said, yeah, I'll go out and look, but we do have building inspectors up here, people in the business that know what they're really doing, so.
there's a way to do this,
Yeah.
but that's very common. And
Yeah.
I think it's a good step considering what we've been through
Yeah.
in the past and some things, so it wouldn't be a bad idea.
Well, I think another thing that is useful is, this is public. This isn't a secret award.
Another good point.
The public's aware that the CCAC just got awarded close to $47,000 for a capital project. If there's not scoreboards put up there, I bet we hear about it. The community just heard you're getting close to $20,000 for a roof. If there's not a new roof on the Salvation Army, I'm guessing we're going to hear about it.
I'm probably moving
So-
back to Iowa. So,
So I think that's, I think that's a good part. I think Travis makes a good point.
Yeah.
We should be good stewards of the money, and hopefully we're doing that.
Travis, I'm sorry.
And frankly, the reason why this was set up this way with granting money towards capital expenditures and capital equipment, that sort of thing, is because you can put your eyes on it better. And that's one of the reasons why we tried to get away from doing anything with operational expenses, because those kind of things, even when you're doing them on the up and up, can hide easily, so.
And I think we as a committee, when we were talking about things, envisioned that before a final payment was made, we would have someone that would go out, and eyeball and make sure those things were being done.
I do appreciate your comments and questions. I know what you do. And again, I think the ordinance, you could even keeping your eyes on that as well. I think you know what our goal is. Are you okay with our responses, at least tonight?
Yes, Ted.
Thanks. Mike.
Our first event, Travis is on Diamond One running the scoreboard.
Thank you for your service.
Any other comments or questions? Appreciate everybody in attendance tonight.
Hey, Eric, as long as you're here, could you just tell us a little bit more about what you're going to be doing down on the corner? I'd love to hear.
Thanks, Eric.
So Eric Lane, Executive Director, Co-founder of Fellowship Missions. So what we are calling the gathering place at 123 Buffalo Street, reminds me of 123 Sesame Street, is a recovery hub. So I'll kind of say what we're not doing, because as Jeremy, we've talked, and what we're not doing, it is not the new shelter. Okay, that's what I know. There was a lot of people asking questions, and we've kind of held off on some things until we got things in order. It's not a shelter. It's not housing in any way, shape, or form. It's not the what do I want to say, soup kitchen or anything like that. It's not for that. What this place is for is to have a I'd say a neutral place for individuals who want to come and find resources for recovery. So that's either the individual, loved ones, family members, to come in, just be able to relax a little bit. A lot of times that's stressful. Environment dictates a lot in the environment with mental health and everything. So we want to have this place be something very calm and inviting. So that's really the first floor. Second floor, we are going to have like-minded agencies up there that'll also serve alongside of us to be able to serve the community. And then we have two, I don't know if you've been in the building or not, but the upstairs is gutted right now, but there are two large conference rooms. I don't know how many of you have actually been in that building. I'm going to say probably one of the most beautiful buildings in downtown on the inside. So we want to keep it that way. My wife and I are very much historical in that sense. And so that's really what it's for. First floor, so give you a sense of what it would be like, is you're going to walk in very open, very inviting, but anybody could come in there. So if there was somebody walking down the road, any of you had a cup of coffee or whatever, and you're not down at Travis's place or another coffee shop, you come in and sit down. Bingo. We're not selling coffee, but it's a place that mentors can meet. Like recovery mentors can meet with their mentee. Groups could meet. I mean, we're hoping if people want to do Bible studies or just friends meet there. Break down the stigma of recovery. Everybody puts their pants on the same. Some walk a different path. And that's what we want to bring to this community. It's no way, shape, or form to harm anything or to bring something downtown that shouldn't be. Individuals that have unfortunately gone down that path of recovery need care and love and are just as much as a part of this community as any other person in this community. And so we really want to show the rest of our community and other communities that we support everybody in our community. And so that's what it's going to be. We can't wait to open it. We actually close this Friday on the property and then start remodeling. We want to have some fun with it too, with others in the community. I can't wait to bring back, we have a big glass window in the front, bring back the old Christmas things, storefronts. And, we've been a part of this community for 14 years now as Fellowship Missions. And as we've grown over the years, 4 years ago, we started the Recovery Hub. There was another organization that shut down, and they had called us and said, hey, would you take over what we've been doing, because they were changing, and they were actually dissolving. And so we were entrusted with that. And I think, almost 13 and a half years ago, sat in front of this group about another building downtown in another council room before here. And we've always appreciated the support of the community, and we don't want to do anything at all to hinder, only to build up our community, and that's what we see here. We're working with the jail department, we're working with the the sheriff's department on the new recovery program that they're doing. We're sitting on that group right now as we're developing that, and this space will be a great handoff for individuals too that would come out of there
but we've got a lot of individuals that aren't incarcerated that need help. That people are afraid to go to certain locations, and we want this to be a place that they can go. I don't know how, I mean, I can keep on talking about it. We're really excited. There'll be a space too for kids because we'll have single parents that need space to come, and that's really hard for them to find places to go, and also find kids can kind of hang out in the, I don't know if some of the coffee shops have those. I know Travis has some space for kids too down there, but just a different space for people to come. Any questions? I've got, you go right ahead.
Jason Brown, thanks for doing what you guys do. I own a couple businesses downtown, and I got word that Eric was doing his thing, and I know there's a lot of different thoughts and emotions, and if we don't fully understand what it is, you ask more and more questions. So the perspective that I'm going to bring is from a business owner in downtown, and more importantly, I'm in restaurants. And I think everybody could agree that restaurants are not always the highest educated, the most well-adjusted individuals that exist in the workplace. And I've crossed paths with some people that have been battling some things. And I know as an owner, my goal is always, I'm gonna get emotional because it's tough. My goal is always to try to help them grow into what I think that they can become. And I know that some of my people could benefit from Eric's space. So that's my 2 cents.
Are there going to be counselors down there, Eric? Or
Yes.
you gonna
Yeah,
have
so we
staff
now
in
actually
there?
employ a licensed mental health therapist and recovery counselor. We'll also be using peer recovery counselors and also just recovery counselors. There'll be a couple of our staff that are over our recovery. My daughter is over recovery, our recovery side, and we have another staff person. They'll be down there quite a bit. Yeah.
You have hours, certain hours?
I mean, probably not past 9 p.m. I mean, it's not, but we don't have we don't have the hours solid yet. Because a lot of Celebrate Recovery and AA, different kind of meeting times, that we want to be able to do that. I mean, we had a meeting with Bowen Center the other day, and, we've offered the space in case they ever needed to be able to have a space to meet with somebody. And that's what it's about, because none of this happens without collaboration. And that's, I think, beauty of our community is we have that. And so that's what we wanted to have that space too, is for other agencies, other people that are trying to help. They may not be housed there, but they can use the space to be able to do their work. And long answer short, yes, we will.
Eric, you mentioned that you'd have a place for children, is that correct? I was just thinking, we have a tremendous need in our community for a place for people to have supervised visits. It just sounds like that's a win-win situation. Have you considered that at all?
Yes.
Yeah, well, thank you.
Yes, because there's also another agency that works with single moms in recovery, and it's another piece that they could be able to meet with their person down there. And when I mean place for kids, there may be a room upstairs, but also maybe just kind of that play area off to the side. Yeah.
Well, unfortunately, we see people dropping off their kids and meeting at McDonald's parking lot or wherever, and it'd be great if they could just come to your place and then change kids out for weekly visitation.
Yeah, when Travis is bringing us coffee, this is on record, right? So
Yeah.
good. All right, sweet.
Well, thank you. I think that's great.
Yeah,
Great opportunity.
Yeah.
Joe?
I was just wondering if food or coal, has shelter capacity?
We average 100% capacity year-round, so we're now well above. We start November 1 through the end of March, and first night we had 6 extra guests that night, and now we're up to, I think last night might have been 12, 4 of which are children under the age of 10. So yes, so there's other plans in the works, for that, but yeah, we've seen a big.
I'm associated with our father's house and closet, and we see a lot of the people that live in cars. And
I think there's some individuals that go out to Walmart. I don't want to speak on Walmart's behalf, but I know that, yeah, they do. Yeah. Yeah, we want to encourage them to get into a place, though, just because of so much risk. I mean, we ran into a gentleman that the back of his car window, he would line with tea lights. But imagine just what comes off of that. That's real help, right? I mean, there's a car fire there real quick. But that's how he survived for a long time. And there are other reasons why he didn't come in for a while. But, yeah. So if you find somebody, I mean, always have them call.
A few weeks ago, Eric, I challenged everybody, starting with me, let's be neighbors serving neighbors while cultivating community. You've been doing that for quite some time, and I just appreciate your continued efforts to walk that direction, and you remind all of us to walk that direction. So thank you. Any other questions? Diane, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I just was going to say thanks.
From the staff behind me, my wife, and just the board, just thank you guys for the continued support and encouragement. And Travis for free coffee. So that's good. And Jason. I mean, they've been great to us, and greatly appreciate his support too. So,
all right. Thank you. Anyone else? Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Is there a second?
A second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned. Have a good and safe evening. Thank you. Kelly.
Do not forget your extra phone.
It's a good meeting.
So do you think your door will refreeze overnight?
Did you give him that one?
Yeah, I just put it in.
I told you I drove to South Bend and I went to the wrong building and he shot me. Rookie. Drove up there, I walked in there all fun. They go, "You're in the wrong building." I guess I'm going home. At least you made it.
Nice to see you.
I'm not as bad as he felt.
That's
At least
awesome.
he wasn't me.
That's excellent. So, hey, don't give up now.
Keep at it. I'm sorry to interrupt.
Well said. I'm proud of you.
Fire hose, yeah, but it's a privilege. Keep close to us. Thank you, sir.
Bill Warren, your father.
Great father. Yeah, and then John Warren is my.
I don't know him, Molly.
Yes.
John from the bank.
Hey, good job tonight, guys. Yeah. Hey, it's a team effort, right?
I figured.
Yeah, I was gonna say there's two people that are probably, but, you know, we share the community. I think that's the big one. I see your point.
Oh, okay.
Operating expenses. That can be a difference.
Well, thank you for having that respect. That should have been a rule. I got one
Some of the reasons are this. So like warranties and things like that, the contractual nature of the work that's provided, you're not warranting to us that the homes will work forever. And well, and some of the other parts about that is at some point, we don't have the person who says, I'm going to monitor the build out. It's stand by for this. We're going to try to do as good as we can about making sure that they come through with what happens.
Well,
And I think what I can really tell is these capital projects, she thinks more than
Everything's being. So I have a furnace, not a backup.